before the draft lottery last night, which ends with Minnesota getting the first pick, the Lakers getting the second pick, this statistic was tweeted by ESPN Stats and Information. There have been 30 number one picks in the lottery era. So for all the people, when I retweeted this last night, everyone was tweeting back at me, Hakeem Olajuwon. Olajuwon was 1 year before the lottery era. The first draft lottery was Patrick Ewing and the Knicks, 85, the frozen envelopes, etc. The year before that, which was Olajuwon, Sam Bowie, Michael Jordan, that's 1 year before the draft lottery. So it doesn't count in this stat. In the 30 number one picks in the lottery era, only 2 of them won NBA championships with the team that drafted them. And they did them together, or at least 2 of it. The 2 of them are David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Robinson was the number one pick of the Spurs in 87. Duncan in 97. They won 2 championships together. And then, of course, Duncan has won 3 more. But they are the only ones
it's amazing
to have won the championship. If I just said to you, close your eyes and guess, out of the 30 number one picks in the lottery era, how many of them won championships with their teams? You would have guessed.
Just off the top, would have guessed
10,
close to
8,
10,
something like
right
that.
in that area. Certainly more than 2. Now, again, there have been others who have won championships, but not with the team that drafted him. For those that maybe are wondering how we're asking this, like Shaquille O'Neal was drafted by the Magic. He never won one with the Magic, and certainly the guy playing still now, LeBron James, didn't win it with the Cavs. He won it with Miami, but he can certainly change that.
Right. So this stat could get doubled this year because both LeBron and Kyrie Irving were number one overall picks of the Cavs. So if Cleveland wins the championship this year, that number goes from 2 to 4. Others who have made the finals with the team that drafted them include Shaq with Orlando. They did make a final before he left. Iverson with the Sixers made one final. Dwight Howard with Orlando made the finals 1 year.
And LeBron made the finals in Cleveland. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
We then went through the list trying to figure out, okay, is that just sort of flukish? How many of the 30 would be considered busts? And I'm not going to put Anthony Bennett in this discussion.
Too early.
Much too early to call him a bust. I mean, it's not trending in the most positive direction.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
But much too soon to call him a bust. If you want to look it over, I think we were being generous, meaning sort of erring on the side of not wanting to call someone a bust.
Because it's an ugly word.
It's an ugly word. We identified 7 busts. Purvis Ellison, Sacramento, 89. Big Dog Robinson with Milwaukee, I mean, he had some decent years. Yeah. But when you consider what he was projected to be.
And then the whole flap of the money he got, worth more than the organization, I mean, that even blew it up even more.
He was in a very good draft also. He got drafted ahead of Grant Hill and other good players. Joe Smith, Golden State, 95. Michael Olowokandi, Clippers, 98. Andrea Bargnani, Raptors, 2006. Greg Oden, Blazers, 2007. So not that many busts.
Kwame Brown.
Oh, and I missed Kwame Brown. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yep, Kwame Brown, Wizards, 2001. Yeah. So not that many flat-out busts. Right. I mean, a lot of good players drafted number one overall, but didn't win championships.
But way more than guys that didn't lead their team they were drafted to a championship. Yeah. I'm with you. I was stunned at that number. Never would have thought it had been that low.
So for what it's worth, Minnesota gets the number 1 pick, and number 2 goes to the Lakers. So they're the big winners coming out of last night. We all know that they had the lottery-protected situation with Philadelphia and everything else. So they are in the top 5 protected.
That was kind of the excitement, at least going in, because you wanted to see where you were going to get your changes. And what you had was a possibility of Philadelphia getting 3 lottery picks. Had Miami gotten, 11, 12, or 13, I believe it was, Philly would have got that. And had the Lakers gotten 6 or 7, Philly would have got that, and then their own pick as well. So they had the potential of 3. And those other 2 didn't happen, so they got their pick, which is number 3 in this draft.
And, so there's a couple of different ways to look at this. If you're Karl Anthony Towns or Jahlil Okafor, who I think project one or the other will most likely be the first pick, would you rather go to Minnesota with a young core, right? They've got those, particularly Wiggins, who was the Rookie of the Year last year.
You got Ricky Rubio there, obviously, as well.
You seem to have some pieces in place, but it's a perennial loser.
It is.
And it's Minnesota rather than L.A. Or would you rather fall to 2 and go to Los Angeles, play for the legendary Lakers, play in Hollywood, all the rest of that? You got Kobe there. You got the bus dynamic. Which of those is a better situation? There's also a lot of hand-wringing going on in New York where the Knicks basically tanked the season traded away everybody. Half of what started out as their team this year are either still playing or made serious contributions to the season and to the playoffs, and now they wind up picking fourth, which is deemed as a huge disappointment. But sometimes the things that look the worst wind up not being so. We'll explain that coming up in a minute. You'll hear from Stephen A. Smith, who just lost his mind last night. Mike and Mike, thanks to AutoZone.